What he doesn't need to do is sit and panic here and really ride too hard. He just needs to ride within himself to the point where everyone is finding it too uncomfortable so that they stop thinking about maybe attacking him.
Yeah, he's a one-man team at the moment. He is sat on the front. Shut that gap down when the road started to rise up. This is the climb to Villaroger, an uncategorized climb. As we still see Bernal on the front, looking very good. He's got a beautiful style on the bike as well, rolling that gear around. Not exactly twiddling a small gear, but more the kind of cadence that we see from Nairo Quintana almost.
I was going to say that there are, out of all of the Colombian riders, there are very few of them that actually sit and apply the sort of Chris Froome kind of twiddling the giro.
We talk about optimum cadence on climbs, don't we? But it's all down to individual physiology as well, and you can adapt to a particular style and actually make it very, very efficient.
Well, the optimum cadence is always the cadence that works for you.
Exactly. That is it. And it's certainly working for this rider at the front at the moment. He's putting the hurt on a lot of these riders. Still around 15 riders in this lead group. One of the Russians is there too. We have 2 riders in this group in the blue, Artinic and Dmitry Strakov. Nobody has assisted at all. Very, very confident indeed is allowed.
No, bar is closed.
The bar is definitely closed. The bell is rung for last orders as Bernal still lead this group.
Rear puncture.
That's not a particularly good thing there for James Knox. He doesn't have any teammates with him. I've not actually seen any teammates.
But he's doing the right thing here, though. He's still waiting for the team car to come up, and he's riding that flat tyre for as long as he possibly can here now, just trying to stay attached to the peloton. Don't stop until your team car is right on top of your back wheel, basically. At that point, you swap stop and swap over.
James Knox desperately waving his arm, but the thing is, on these very narrow roads, it is difficult for the team cars to move up. But because he's in second place overall, well, they could get neutral service, and also his team car is in second position in the convoy behind the Colombian team. So an interesting situation there for Knox. Hopefully he'll get a wheel change very soon. So coming into the final 11 kilometres of stage 8 of the Tour de l'Avenir. Saint-Foy-Tarente is the climb that is looming, and our race leader Egan Bernal is on the front, sending a pretty ferocious rhythm. But meanwhile, second place on GC from Great Britain, James Knox has suffered a puncture.
And team cars are now back up there with the riders, so that's a GB team car.
Well, only one GB rider in there. As we said, a great ride yesterday by James Knox, but Scott Davis is riding very well as well. Here's the wheel change. Let's hope it's a pretty speedy one for the youngster. Drops
Key
it in.
thing is going to be not to panic here now, though. When he gets that wheel in, start riding. Don't go too hard, too quickly. Just plug away and try and make your way back in there.
I think the good thing was, no good thing about puncturing this late into the race. But as you said, doesn't want to panic, because if you panic on a climb, anybody's got the strength to attack this Colombian.
Well, that is the question, and I don't think anyone. Well, the strength to attack him, probably yes, but the question is whether they got the strength to ride away from him.
Yeah, there's one thing, putting a stinging acceleration on a climb. But that puts you essentially into the red, and it's sustaining it, as you said, Magnus. That's why we've seen the style of racing changing a little bit as riders understanding how important it is to ride at set power. But I think it's important that riders learn how to ride on feel as well. But he's got himself back into that group, jersey flapping. And it's the gradient on this part of the climb not too steep, so there will be a little bit of an aerodynamic advantage in sitting in that group as well, getting sucked along a bit, recouping. Look at that, he's moving right to the front.
Good.
Unsurprisingly, because he's a rider sitting second overall, wants to get back in the mix, fourth or fifth wheel from the front. Good bit of riding there by Knox.
And that's the best place to sit at any point, certainly on a climb like this. It's just right near the front. You've got control of what's happening in front of you. You can move yourself clear if you need to respond.
Will be the rider to shut it down. Bernal is actually back on the front of this group, slowly bringing things back, rolling that gear. Very stable on a bike, hands on the hoods, not panicking at all. Not bothering to jump across, happy to bring everybody back into contention. That's an interesting way of riding.
Yeah, I think it is a very good way of riding. He's doing it really smart here as well. But you can see that the difference between Bernal, how he's sitting very calm, composed, strong on the bike, just plugging away at it, whereas our Australian friend here is a lot more sort of erratic with his body movements and just, yeah, it doesn't look quite as controlled and as sort of composed.
I think it's fair to say that this rider here is on the limit, and Bernal behind is clearly riding hard, but far more in control and gradually bringing him back rather than accelerating harshly, bringing the gap down quickly. He's doing it very, very slowly, almost letting him hang out there.
And I think that's probably the thought process behind this as well, is just leave him sitting out there, try and get him to waste as much energy as possible, and hopefully he just comes back to me instead. If I just keep on going at this pace, then it's not really going to be too much to worry about. That's Jay Hindley.
Yeah, Jay Hindley there sits 11th overall at 1 minute and 29 seconds. But a good move by the Australian, I think, maybe trying to draw the sting out of Egan Bernal, because the Australians do have Lucas Hamilton in 4th place on the general classification at only 1 minute and 9 seconds. And remember, in about a kilometre's time, the road drops down for about 1,500 metres or so, and then kicks up 6.5 k's to the line. So a good tactical ploy here by the Australians, and also good to see they've also got Michael Storer in 12th position. So the Australians in between the three riders who we believe are in this front group.
Too hard and dropping people at this point in time is just keep the pace going, keep working. No one is going to ask, basically give him a turn on the front, because they're all too worried about him effectively attacking and dropping them. So he needs to just find a rhythm and just keep on plugging away, and then work out what to do with a kilometre or so left to the top. If he starts asking for help, then I think he's doing the wrong thing.
I think you're right. There was a little bit of a look over his shoulder there and a swing off. This is the second group on the road now, and since we've been climbing, that initial acceleration has split this group. That is number 1 at 7.6 there, Tobias Foss of Norway. And then we swing again to the front. Looking very, very smooth indeed. A flick of the elbow there, a little bit of a cheeky flick. If I were you, I wouldn't ride with him. I'd either attack him. You don't need to sit on the front, because he is so dangerous. Looks like a coiled spring. A couple of Australians in that group, 2 Belgians as well. We have Bjorga Lambrecht, 20-year-old Belgian. He's in that group. He sits in 3rd place overall. Also there is Michael Schlegel of the Czech Republic. He's wearing the orange shorts. He rides for Sprandi CCC Polgevice. That's his professional squad.
I think that's the Danish rider Niklas Egg in there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Egg, the 22-year-old, is also there. Rides for Ram Velo Concept. But now Bernal has just gone to the back of this group. But Australia now take up the pacemaking, but nobody really willing to press on too hard. And I think that's reflected in this sort of gradient. It is the sort of gradient where you can actually get a lot of benefit from sitting in the wheel as well.
Attack from Egg.
And Egg goes on the right-hand side, trying to smash things up a little bit. Good move here by Egg. James Knox looking around for some assistance, and that assistance has come in the form of Michael Schlegel, the Czech rider. He now lifts himself out of the saddle and closes this thing down, because it's very, very close. Behind Bernal on the GC, we have James Knox at 1 minute, and then there's only 23 or 24 seconds separating
so
the rest.
Up from behind here now. They obviously can cause a bit of a problem on the general classification. So yeah, it might be worth a couple of turns on the front there from certainly like guys like the Belgians.
Well, it's Lucas Hamilton who's now gone to the front to do a little bit of pacemaking, and that group has made contact again. That slowing of the pace, the unwillingness of any of the riders to take it up, has provided an opportunity for that group to get back in contact. And also one rider has seized an opportunity to try and attack, essentially slingshotted around the inside, and here's the Norwegian rider who was making a lot of the pacemaking earlier on. So good attack. It looks like it might be Tobias Foss who's gone clear. So Foss there using the apex of the corner to essentially slingshot himself round. And it is interesting, although we are going uphill, the physics and the kind of dynamics of these hairpin bends, if you get them right, you can actually use the momentum gain by going up the inside, all the outside. So a good little move by Niklas Egg, of Denmark, who's gone clear.
No, I think the graphic is wrong there. It's definitely a Norwegian jersey. So Foss is given this one a good attack. And why not? I think there was an opportunity there to be had where everyone was looking at each other, but now it's James Knox going after Foss here. And Bernal is going to have to respond here quite quickly.
He certainly was. He dropped to the back of that group a little bit, but now he's going to have to go clear because Knox clearly a threat at only 1 minute.
And Hamilton is in there as well, the Australian who's lying fourth on the general classification.
So a good move here by both Knox and Hamilton. Lambrecht is the rider who's just going across the gap now in the middle of your screen in that blue jersey with the red and the yellow stripes through the centre. So the Norwegian rider now heading things up at the front of this group. Knox is on his wheel with his jersey fully unzipped for Great Britain.
Interesting. There's a couple of the guys in here now who were sort of in the second group just now, and they managed to make it back into the front group, obviously, and now found themselves with an advantage again. So all sorts of sort of strange happenings here.
Well, that just shows. I mean, it's never over. So a good move there by the rider on your screen now, Tobias Foss. Out of the groups, out of the riders in the front, he has the most to gain. He sits at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. If he manages to go clear, he could catapult himself well into the top 10. So unsurprising to see him riding. So Knox is there. Björg Lambrecht of Belgium is also there. 4.1 kilometers to go. Schlegel is there for the Czech Republic as well as the leader of the race, Egan Bernal. Lucas Hamilton there. Looks like he's got a tear in his shorts, Magnus. Looks like he's come to... he's had a bit of a crash earlier in the day. Is that the logo? It looks actually
I think it's the logo.
It looked like a bit of a tear in his shorts. Apologies there. So 3.9 kilometres to go. Very even gradient to the top of the climb today at Sainte-Foy-Tarentaise. Unless the rider's done a recon. It isn't anywhere that a race has been up in the past.
Obviously, there will be staff from the various different teams who've driven up here now, who've been able to get radio back into or call back into the team car to let everyone know what's what. Egg is having a go with Bernal. Now's the time to respond, James Knox, if you've got anything left in your legs.
Yeah, that's a good move there. So Bernal looking very, very good. A good attack there by Niklas Egg, the 22-year-old. Looking very, very strong. And Bernal happy to sit in his slipstream. Egg sits at 1 minute and 9 seconds. And here's that attack again. Nothing any of the other riders can do about it apart from the race leader. And just look at that. The attack out of the saddle by the Danish rider. But Bernal just sat down nice and smooth. To me, it looks like he's got a little bit more in the tank. I don't think he's been put under too much pressure at the moment. But Niklas Egg looking very, very smooth as well.
Yeah, he certainly does. I've got to say, there's some very interesting bike setup for a climber on that bike. You would have thought with a team like what he's got behind him with Bjarne Riis at the sort of driving part of that is very, very low front end, and
he's quite a way forward on that bike here, and he had and on the surveillance you can actually flick those saddles round, can't you? It looks like he had more of a kind of a TT, borderline triathlon kind of position. Very, very forward on the bike. Obviously, of course, everybody is unique, but these young riders, you do see some interesting positions which are somewhat finessed when they move on to pro teams. The pro teams have a look at the positions, but no, it does sit quite low at the front for a climber.
Yeah, very low at the front of the bike for a climber. And sometimes a lot of the younger riders tend to set up their bikes depending on what they think looks cool at the time. Slammed a negative stem. As long as it's that, then it's okay. Like everything is good. I can definitely. I'm going to be fast. That tends to happen a lot.
It is a bit of a trend in the peloton. And for those of you watching who are wondering what we're talking about in terms of the term slammed, it basically means a very, very low position frontally at the bike. So you see the stem, which attaches the bike, of course, to the handlebars in the frame. That, as you can see on the rider in front, is negatively inverted, so pointing downward, giving the rider a very low position. Now the UCI have actually changed the rules and regulations on the slammed position, so they can actually tilt their saddle down 9 degrees rather than 3.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing this trend in the peloton, but more for the rouleurs. You spend a lot of time on the front on the flat, but the young riders maybe look at that as the ideal position. But anyway, it's an interesting point, but as you say, very, very low front sleeve. Doesn't look quite as comfortable maybe as he should want to climb.
No, it does look like he's sort of pulling himself too far forward over the bike, but that's obviously up to him and his technical staff and his team to work out whether that's the right thing for him or not. But to me, it just doesn't quite look right.
But Egg looking good at the moment, regardless of the position. Very, very effective. Bernal on his wheel hasn't given him a turn at all. So the 22-year-old from Denmark rides for Team Velo Concept, the Continental squad, opening up a nice bit of a lead here. There's the Norwegian, just the Danish rider, and it's the Norwegian rider now who's trying to close things down. I'm trying to see if I can see James Knox of Great Britain. There's actually the Australian is coming across, Lucas Hamilton, 4th place on the general classification. Good bit of riding by him. Managed to jump across that gap.
It just looks like it's leveling out the fraction here on the climb now. It's not quite as steep, and with that, Hamilton has managed to find a bit of energy to move across to Bernal and Egg.
Well, 3 riders now in front, Bernal, Egg and Hamilton. And what is the gap to the group behind? I can just see James Knox there. He's in second wheel with that jersey flapping around. Not able to do much about closing this gap now, but with 2 riders willing to work on front, well, still only 1 rider. Egg is the only rider contributing to the pacemaking at the moment. Bernal, unsurprisingly. Well, that's an interesting bit of a tactical manoeuvre there. I think it just shows Bernal has also got a shrewd tactical mind on board, as well as a strong pair of legs. Swung off to force the Australian to close the gap and get back on the wheel.
Yeah, and he obviously sits in a position where he's got full control of what anyone is doing. So any attacks are, well, the riders are less likely to attack with him sitting right in front of him, because you don't have any kind of element of surprise. So they would have to really attack on just having crazy good legs, basically.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, you can see Bernal there looking very, very smooth, and it is both Lucas Hamilton and Nicolas Egg who have the most to gain here, so he's happy to let them do the pacemaking. They're the riders moving clear of the riders just behind this cluster of riders. Remember, we have James Knox in 2nd place overall at 1 minute, and then 10th place on the general classification is at 1 minute 23, so all to play for midway through.
It looks like James Knox is just having a bit of trouble hanging on to the 2 riders that he was with right then. Not looking like the best of days for James Knox.
Knox a little bit starting to suffer on this climb now. 1.8 kilometres to go, and still the Danish rider on the front, Nicolas Egg, hardly even looked around for some assistance. The Australian Lucas Hamilton is just behind him, 21 years of age, rides for the Mitchelton Scott team, essentially the feeder of the Orica Scott team. And here is the study of concentration here. This is the British rider who at the moment is losing his 2nd place on the general classification. James Knox, 21 years of age, rides for Team Wiggins, just been distanced by that group. He's now 6th on the road. But what advice would you give him now, Magnus, if you're his director sportive to riding along? So what do you say to him?
Just ride within yourself, find the power that you can produce and that you're happy to hold for the next 1.5 kilometers, and just work at that. Don't look at the guys in front of you. Don't worry what's coming behind you. It's all about an individual time trial effort. If that means you getting back onto the wheels of these guys, great. If it doesn't, then so be it. There's another day tomorrow, and a big day as well. It
is a big day, but he hasn't lost too much time. It looks like it's about 10 or 15 seconds at the moment, although he is dropping back, but he's got them in sight. If you can try and keep them in sight, that'd be a good idea. But as you said, Magnus, it's on a climb like this, if you're dropped, you've got to be so careful. Some real big speed being set here, and interestingly now, the Norwegian rider is getting back in contact. Some good riding there by Tobias Foss. He's 17th overall, but riding very strongly and has now made contact. He's got the Belgian Bjorg Lambrecht with him for company.
Yeah, I think Foss is doing a fantastic ride today. Really strong to get himself back into the front group, and then in the mix now with only just over 1 kilometre to go to the finish line.
Well, a great ride by Tobias Foss there. Lost 2 minutes and 8 seconds on yesterday's stage. So he, in this front group of 5, has the most to gain, so looking very good.
It could have been that he just didn't enjoy the rest day and having the travel in his legs and then getting out and doing that. He's just not feeling 100%.
Well, a big attack here from Tobias Foss. Goes to the front. Maybe he is thinking about time, but a look over the shoulder there from Lucas Hamilton. Hamilton not happy. He's either got sore legs or he's not happy with the tactical situation here, forcing Egan Bernal to close the gap down to the two riders in front. And then we have Bjorn Lambrecht of Belgium. He sits at only 1 minute and 9 seconds, but 800 meters to go now. And where is James Knox sitting in second place? He's just rounded the corner there. He's got back into the car, so not too far away.
No, he is not too far away. I think it is actually, you were right there, he has been down on the ground. Lucas Hamilton is certainly somewhat of a strange logo if it is one.
Sorry, I thought that was a strange Australian logo. It does look like he's laid it down and taken some of the lycra out of his shorts there, but look at that, great riding here by Lucas Hamilton. He was dropped round that hairpin, fighting to get back onto the wheel of the Belgian. Bjorn Lambrecht is there, but this group at the moment has been led by Tobias Foss of Norway, the rider with the most to gain in this group. And looks to me, Magnus, as if the rider in front from Norway is trying to ride more for the general classification here than the stage. He's got Egg on his wheel. And then, of course, Egan Bernal, the race leader, taking a gel very late in the stage. That was quite interesting. Looks like he was taking a gel.
Good for the descent, going back to the hotel.
There we go. Again, maybe that was just a bit of mind games there. I mean, eating in the last 800 meters of a stage. I mean, what must that do to the psychology of the other riders there? Riding full of confidence here. Bernal drops to fourth wheel, forces the Belgian into the prime position here. And meanwhile, we're seeing Lucas Hamilton detached by that increase of pace. Again, he's going to just try and keep focused, try not to bloat, try not to push himself into the red. But I would say here, it's definitely Tobias Foss trying to push himself up into the top 10 at the moment.
Lambrecht is the only one who's up into the big ring. I think Bernal's just switched up into the big chain ring as well, getting ready for the sprint.
Well, Lambrecht winding it up on the right-hand side there for Belgians. Looks like he's really leaning on things now, and the quad opens things up. Starts to turn those pedals, putting some right force through, but so easily. The race leader got back into his slipstream. Only 150 meters to go now. The Belgian Lambrecht is leading things out. Opens things up, and on the inside goes Bernal. Bernal goes in the yellow jersey. Bernal rounds the final corner. Who is going to take it to the line? A very tight finish here. It is stage win number 2 for the Colombian. What a way to impose yourself on this race. Back-to-back stage wins by the 20-year-old Egan Bernal of Colombia. Took the win from Bjorn Lambrecht. What a fine victory by the Colombian.
Well, that was a really good piece of tactical riding by Bernal, and even all the way up until the final couple of 100 meters, he clearly knew exactly what this finish was like. He spotted where the corner was. He makes the move in the straight line, kind of surprises Lambrecht, the Belgian, goes on the inside, and at this point Lambrecht just had too far to go. Regardless of whether he had legs or not, it was just never going to work out for him. And very smart riding by Bernal, who clearly had the upper hand on pretty much on everyone pretty much all day.
Yeah, he had the upper hand. He was forced on a couple of positions to ride on the flat, but again, it looks like he's clearly read the road book as well here. Took the inside line. A good attack by the Belgian, but Bjorn Lambrecht made the mistake of leaving a gap on the inside. He knew that it was going down to the right-hand side. Little bit of a schoolboy error there. Should have forced the Colombian wide, but you can't take anything away from Bernal Gomez. The opportunity was there. He presented itself to him, and he executed it to perfection.
Yeah, I think Lambrecht made that mistake of leaving the door.